So here we are with Spring Semester Final Review Day 5, starting with question 33. Yay! We're almost done. Okay, so we're going to read the question to start off with. That's always a good place to start, right? Okay, so the completion of a certain chemical reaction is expressed by the equation y equals 188 minus 5x minus x squared, where y is the number of seconds needed to complete the reaction and x is the temperature in degrees Celsius at which the reaction occurs. Okay, so y is our seconds, and then it says 104 seconds to complete the reaction. So y is 104. Okay. So we know that 104 is equal to 188 minus 5x minus x squared. Okay. And then they want us to find out what x is because they want to know what the temperature is, and temperature is our x. All right, so I'm looking at this equation and it's got the x squared, so I remember that means it's quadratic, and we have a couple different ways to solve a quadratic, but the thing they all have in common is this needs to be 0. So in order to make that 0, we're going to subtract 104 from both sides. Okay, so we get 84 minus 5x minus x squared. So now at this point we could graph it and see where it crosses the x-axis, much like the little picture here, right, where it would be crossing the x-axis. We could factor it, we could use the quadratic formula, or we have the option with our Inspire calculators to use the menu algebra, which is 3, and then use 3 for polynomial tools and 1 for real roots, because these are real numbers. Okay. All right, so if we do that on our calculator, we go to our calculator and we use menu, 3 for algebra, 3 for polynomial tools, and 1 for finding the roots. Okay, it comes up degree 2. Yes, that's our exponent is 2. Real, yes, that's what we care about, real numbers. Okay, so then we put in our numbers. So we look back here, and the numbers happen to be written backwards here because we're in standard polynomial form, right? The x squared, then the x, then the constant, or is how we would write that. So our numbers that we're going to put in are be -1, because there's an understood 1 there, -5, and then 84. And the order totally matters, so you got to make sure you get that right. So the -1, -5, and the 84. And then we say okay. All right, and that looks like our equation, but they're at least the right side of the expression. And we say enter, and we get -12 and 7. Okay, so we go back to our answer choices, and we have 7 as an answer choice, so I believe that's going to be our thing. We have +12, but Celsius does exist as negatives and positives, so it's not like they made a mistake and just left the negative off. That they're trying to trick you into picking the wrong answer there. Okay, so answer choice B would be our best bet for that one. As the area of a rectangular floor is described by this equation, where W is the width of the floor in meters, what is the width of the floor? All right, got a couple of choices on this one as well. This is an equation to be solved. We could try using our equation solver. Because we would be multiplying W times W. If we were simplifying this out, we would get W squared, which means we could use the polynomial tool from above. Another way that may be a little simpler is one of these numbers is the width of the floor. So it might be easier to just substitute this in for W. So that's what I did. I just went 12 times 12 minus 9, and that equals 12 times 12 minus 9, that equals 36. So that was not my answer. So then I jumped down to J and said 21 times 21 minus 9. What does that equal? That one equals 252. So that's what this one should, right, equal. So J is my answer for 34. Okay, let's check out 35. 35. The area of a square is described by this equation. 1/2 x squared equals 162, where x is the length of a side in feet. What is the length of the side of the square? Okay, again, several ways to do it. One thing when I'm solving, I really, don't like to have fractions. So I would multiply this entire thing by 2 and have x squared equals 4, 12, 324. And so if x squared equals 324, then x would be the square root of that. So x equals the square root of 324. Control x squared, 324. And I get 18. So 18 feet, be answer choice A. Determine which function is linear, quadratic, or exponential, or inverse. Okay, this shape is a parabola, so I know that's quadratic. This shape is exponential. Just that single curve. Okay. When I have two curves, that's an inverse function. I think inverse, they're mirror images, right? And then this last one is a line, so this would be linear. Okay. All right, 37. The student enrollment E of a high school was 1,310 in 1998 and has increased by 10%. Okay, increased by 10%, that's going to be important. Which function gives the school student enrollment in terms of T, where T is the number of years since 1998? Okay, so in 1998 we were at 1310, so that's where we started. And so in our equation we're starting there. It looks like we may be here because I put the 1310, but because of the to the T power, that's not where we started. If we started with it, it wouldn't change. Okay, so 1310 by itself. Okay, and then increase by 10%. So we still have 100% of the amount, and then we're adding 10% to it. So that's actually 110% right now. So if we divide that by 100 to get our decimal, that would be 1.10. Okay, so that's not 1.10. If we add these two together, that would be 1.10. So D is our correct answer. Okay, let's check out number 38. Okay, the population, a population of 500 is decreasing. Okay, decreasing by 1% per year. Which function models the situation? Okay, so we're starting with 500. So this starts with 500. 500 is a constant in all of those. Decreasing means we're going to subtract by 1%. So we had 100%, and we're going to subtract 1%. Okay, and if I'm looking here, right, we got 1.01, that would be more than 100%, right? Because this would be 1 minus 0.01. So let's see, that's more than 1. That's 0.1. That's not even right. And then we have 1 plus 0.01, so that's not going to work. And 1 minus 0.01. That's a match. Okay, let's moving on. 39. The volume of a gas V varies inversely. Okay, so the inversely, we would write that as V equals some number K over P. Okay. Then it says the volume of a gas is 30 liters and the pressure is 2. Okay, so that means K over 2. What equation represents this situation? Well, I need to know what K is in order to write the equation. So I have to solve this. I'm dividing by 2, so if I multiplied, that would cancel. So I do 2 times 30, so that gives me that my K value is 60. So my equation would be V equals 60 over P. All right, number 40 and our last one. Hooray! A truck driver drove from one warehouse to another in 5 hours, traveling at an average speed of 42 miles per hour. If the return trip took 6 hours, what was the driver's average speed on the return trip? Okay, so the first thing I'm thinking is this has something to do with that formula, distance equals rate times time. Okay, and if I'm going to and from the same place, then my distance is the same. So my first trip, we'll call that R1 and T1, right, would be equal to R2 and T2 because they'd be the same distance. Okay, so the first rate was 42 and the time was 5. And rate 2 I don't know, but the time was 6. Okay, so 42 times 5 is 210. So 6R equals 210. So we would divide by the 6. And let's see, that goes in 3 times with 3 left over, so 35. So his rate would be 35 miles per hour. Awesome, we finally finished the review. Hooray!